I'm Simon Dewsbury, PGA Staff Professional here at Belmont Country Club. Today we're going to do a specialty on bunkers. Bunker shots are really easy once we know how and what we're doing in the bunkers. All we're trying to do is take an explosion of the sand and the ball comes out on top of the sand. Now, very simple, very easy in theory, but it's understanding how the club itself is designed to work in the sand. When you actually take a look at this, if you have the shaft going vertically, you will see that the back edge of the sole is a little bit lower than the leading edge. And that angle from horizontal coming upwards there is the amount of bounce that is on this golf club. And what that means is that as the club enters into the sand, that back edge is going to push upwards. And it pushes underneath, and then that acts like a plane and it comes back out of the sand, and we're trying to then bounce the club through the sand and back up again. The bigger the bounce angle, the more it's going to kick up out of the sand. So when you have big fluffy sand, you want to have a big bounce angle. If you're playing somewhere like Carnoustie, where the sand is really tight, you want to have a small bounce angle. So you need something that's actually going to dig into the sand a little bit. But my easiest way of trying to explain and get people to understand this would be to put some kind of a board down. I'm very fortunate that being on Ping staff, I get this impact board as part of the kit that we have when we're actually custom fitting. I use this more in the sand actually when I'm coaching than I would when I'm actually fitting. And I want to get the feeling that once I'm setting into this swing, I want to have the feeling that I am being aggressive and I am attacking the board. It's a really strong polycarbonate, it's not going to break, the club isn't going to get damaged from it, but I have that feeling of energy transfer going into the ground. If I then put some sand on top of that board, all I'm trying to do is hit the board. That bounce on the club is going to stop the club from going down into the ground, and it's just going to have that big explosion of sand that comes out of it. I've got this measuring jug from laundry detergent, and that's pretty much the amount of sand realistically that I'm looking to take with this shot. So very simple, easy way to feel what's going on. And all I'm trying to do there is make a swing that's big enough to explode the sand out of the bunker. So if I can get the sand out of the bunker, the ball comes out on top of the sand. So the ball's floating out, it lands softly, I've got no real issues with it, no real problems. If I take that board out of the way now, you can see now we've got an imprint of where that board was. So I'm just going to place the ball in the middle of that board. I'm going to dig my feet down now because I want to feel as though I'm lowering my swing arc a little bit. Give my feet a little bit of a solid base to build from. And all I'm going to do now is make exactly the same swing, attack the board, and the ball comes out nice and soft. Bunkers are very easy. We don't need to get scared of them. We don't need to get tentative. All we've got to do is understand how the bounce on the golf club is going to help us and get the sand to come out of the bunker. The ball just comes out nice and soft on top of the sand. It's really easy. All right, in terms of how to set up to play this shot, very, very simply. There's my golf ball, okay? I've got to make sure that the golf ball goes towards the target. Now, because there is no contact between the club face and the ball, whichever direction the sand is going, the ball is going to go that way because I'm collecting the sand and sending the ball along that line there. Now, all I want to do is I want to have my feet a little bit open because I'm going to have a lower body that's quite quiet and stable throughout this swing. It's not going to have the ability to fire and open itself up, so I'm going to preset myself so that my stance is a little open. My foot, ankle, knee and hip tucked a little bit around to the left. In doing that though, my tendency would be for my shoulders to be a little open as well. So I've got to get set, and I'm going to make sure that my shoulders are square to my target line so that I can then swing along the line of my shoulders. So if I draw a line in there, what I realistically want to do would be to get set square and then pull my lead foot back. Now, I personally got taught to have a slightly open stance by turning both my feet towards the target a little bit. It's the way that I've always done it, but I actually would coach it to sit square and then just pull the lead foot back. I'm going to lower my feet into the ground, kind of toes first and then the heels, so it pushes my body weight over the balls of my feet. Now, regardless now of whether I've got a square club face, open or slightly closed club face, that isn't going to influence the golf ball in terms of its direction, just in terms of its height, because I'm going to be making the contact with the sand. So wherever the sand goes, the golf ball is going to follow. So as long as I am now swinging along this line here with my shoulder line and my ball to target line matching up, the golf ball is going to go the same way. And if I just get set exactly the same, pull the lead foot back a little bit, dig my toes in, and now just open the face a little bit more loft. It's pretty much the same direction, but a little bit higher, a little bit softer landing. Get set square, open the feet a little bit, dig them in. This time I'm going to close the face down a little bit. And it just takes a little bit of loft off so the golf ball goes that little bit further. But pretty much all of those in similar direction. Not exactly the same, but very, very close to each other in terms of the direction. So as long as the path is going towards our target, because we end up in that position where we have sand in between the club face and the golf ball, whichever way the sand goes, the golf ball is going to go that way. It's then just about the angle of the loft that we're going to put onto it, more loft, less loft, to get higher or lower ball flights and more or less distance that is going to influence it. But get set square to the target, pull the left foot back a little bit so that the knee and the hip are out of the way, so that we can then keep the shoulders square and fire it down towards the flag. Now again, we're creating two different positions here. So right now, very, very little sand here. I do not want to have a lot of bounce on this golf club. So I do not want to add loft, because all that's going to do is it's going to drop the back edge even further down and create more of an angle between the leading edge and the back edge, and create that plane where it just pushes back upwards like a plane wing and kicks you back out of the sand. I'm going to have to play this with a square face maybe even close the face down a little bit, so I actually bring the leading edge down towards the ground that little bit more, so the sole sits more flat on the ground. Could mean that my hands go a little bit further forwards as well, but I really want to make sure that I'm digging my feet down, giving myself the chance to get into the sand as much as possible, leaning my hands forward, taking that bounce angle off a little bit. I'm going to make sure that I get the swing up towards my shoulders more and feel as though I'm just dropping the club down onto the sand. I'm not trying to force my way through the sand too much, because there's going to be less sand coming out. There's going to be more energy transfer into the golf ball, so I don't need to get too aggressive with it. Just take a little bit of loft off the club face, close it down a little bit, hands a little forwards, maybe even just push my weight a little bit further forwards as well. And that golf ball is going to come off a little bit hotter off the face because there's less sand there. The opposite effect, and this is the extreme, if we're in really, really deep sand, I'm going to change out. I've got 14-degree bounce angle on my sand wedge here. I'm going to open the face a little bit. I'm going to give myself even more bounce than 14 degrees. Now that club, the ball is sitting up really, really high for this, so I wouldn't normally recommend dropping your hands down towards the club head, because that's bringing the swing arc back up towards you. But because this has been artificially raised, I need to do just that a little bit. I'm going to feel, though, this time there's going to be a lot more sand coming out, so I really do need to feel there's a lot of energy transferring through. I've got to really power through all that sand just to get the sand out of the bunker. And again, that ball comes out on top of the sand. There's not going to be a lot of energy transfer into the golf ball, so it's not going to travel anywhere near as far. So I can be really, really confident, really aggressive with this swing, and the ball doesn't come out at all. So don't be scared of shifting all that sand. There's a huge amount of weight there. And again, using the measuring jug, I'm trying to explode all of that sand out of the bunker, and there is a significant amount of weight there, and I'm really trying to throw all that sand out. It takes a huge amount of arm swing to try and play that. It probably isn't realistically going to be quite that fluffy, but I may end up with something like that where I've got 2.5 to 3 inches of sand. The ball's just kind of semi-plugged down into it. We've got to make sure we have that big swing and really power through that sand. Get the sand out of the bunker. Use the right bounce angle for the club, for the course that you're going to play if you have that chance. So with this one here, it's harder to get into the sand, and that's realistically all you're taking there. So a significant difference between the tight lie, where a small easy swing is going to take the sand out, comparing that to that big explosion of sand where it's really, really deep. That tiny little swing, again, the sand's going to stay in the bunker. And if the sand stays in the bunker, the ball's going to stay in it as well. So we really want to feel the weight of that sand. It is really heavy. We've got to have a big swing. We've got to really explode that out. So when we get into the swing itself, big swing, attack the sand, get that big explosion, so that we can get the energy transferring into the ball to get it to go out of the bunker. Okay, now in terms of practice, we want to make sure that we have consistency and control over the entry point into the sand. So one of the simplest ways of doing that is going to be to draw as straight a line as you can. Start off at the end, get the same setup position, the ball position the same every single time. What we're going to do is my eyes are actually going to be looking right into the middle of the line. So I want to see, when I'm looking there, where does my golf club enter the sand? Now for me, that was about 2 inches behind the golf ball, or behind the line. So I'm just going to step over a little bit, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Same ball position, same setup, same swing. My eyes are still going to be looking at the middle of that line. And I'm going to make sure that that entry point is the same. So for me, once I've done that and I've worked down that line, I know I've got control over that low point, control over my entry point. I can now get everything here in exactly the same position. My ball position is the same. My eyes are going to be looking at the middle of the golf ball. So that when I make that same swing, my entry point is going to be 2 inches, inch and a half, 2 inches behind what I'm looking at. If when I'm looking at the line here, my entry point is at the line, and I do that consistently, when I get set up here, what I would actually do is that I would actually move that golf ball and my ball position just a touch towards the target side, so that when I'm now looking at what would be 2 inches behind, my entry point then becomes that focal point of to where my eyes are looking, rather than 2 inches behind where I'm looking at. So using that as a practice drill is a really good way of ensuring that we understand where our entry point is, so that when we actually bring the golf ball into the equation, we've got control over the consistency of the entry point and what's going to happen through the shot. All I want to do then when I'm practicing is vary my club face. So square face, closed face, open face, but keep the swing the same. And that then is going to show me what is going to happen in terms of my ball flight from a closed club face to a square club face to an open club face, and I can see the differences in the height, how the ball lands and releases. So it's giving me an idea as to what my capabilities are going to be. You can see there the divot length, the depth is the same each time. All I've done then is manipulated the loft and the bounce angle a little bit to vary what I'm trying to get the results to be. And that way it gives me the opportunity of understanding what my capabilities are. And if I change to a different golf club, I can go through that same exercise with the slightly closed face, and the ball goes that little bit further to the square face, and if I had more golf balls, to the open face. And I can then vary that through my lob wedge, my sand wedge, my gap wedge, even down to my pitching wedge and my 9-iron. But it gives me a better understanding of what my entry point is, how much sand is going to be coming out, and what is going to happen to the golf ball in terms of the flight of it, how the ball is going to land and how it's going to react. But it's a really, really good way of you getting an understanding of what your clubs are going to do for you in the sand. Again, we want to practice how we play, so we don't always end up with the nice fluffy lie in the middle of the bunker. We come up against the face, we've thrown the ball in, we've ended up with the semi-plugged lie. I don't want the club bouncing off the sand, because all I'm going to do then is enter the leading edge into the middle of the golf ball, and I'm going to blade it straight into the face of the bunker. I've got to make sure that the golf club is going to dig down underneath the golf ball, which means I'm going to play this with a square face. Because of the angle of the bunker itself going down, that's going to kind of match up with the amount of bounce that I have on the club anyway. So the leading edge is going to enter into the sand about the same time as the back edge here. I want to make sure that my trail foot has got a stable base. So I'm going to again just wiggle my foot down into it a little bit, give me a security there. My lead foot obviously this time is outside the bunker. So I'm going to have a lot more pressure going into my quad and my knee to give me the balance, because I want to feel like I'm pushing into the bank a little bit. I'm going to have my hands just a touch in front of the club head. So again, I'm angling that sole so that I am at least flush with the sand when I play this. Now there's going to be very little forward momentum through impact because the club is going to be going down into the sand. So I want to make sure that I've got a big swing and a huge swing coming down in. I've got a big explosion of sand coming out. I'm going to have a little bit of a firmer pressure in my hands this time, so I can be really, really aggressive coming down into the sand and get the ball to pop out. Because I've still got 54 degrees aloft, there's going to be a lot of energy going upwards, so I don't really have to worry too much about the ball hitting the face there. It is going to pop up, but as you can see there is a huge crater there from a lot of sand being taken. So again, big swing, big explosion. Dig the foot in. Strong hands, drive into the sand, and the ball is going to pop out nice and soft. The worst thing you can do is be tentative with the sand. We have to have that big swing, be aggressive, make sure that the sand is going to come out. The ball is going to come out with the sand. I say this every single time. The sand is your friend, okay? Use the sand to help you in the bunkers. Don't be scared of the sand, guys. Again, throw the ball in a little bit more in keeping with realistic play as opposed to just giving yourself the nice cushy option. This one, we kind of landed it just in the edge of the grass and let it trickle into the bunker. So now I've got the back of the bunker to contend with. I'm on a little bit of a downslope as well, and I'm on a little bit of an angle, so the ball's below my feet, and I've got to kind of tilt my body to make sure that my backswing and downswing don't get interfered with by the lip. And kind of reverse of the uphill now, I've got my lead foot into the bunker. I'm going to have to kind of turn my toes out a little bit, so I'm pushing down into my toes. My trail foot, I've got to try and find a position where I can kink my knee inwards a little bit, so again that stays out of my backswing and downswing, as opposed to having my foot flared outwards where it brings my knee into play. I'm going to lean myself with the slope, so I'm really going to tilt my shoulders down, and as I swing I'm going to have a little bit of a squarer face for this one, so that I can feel as though I can dig down into the sand a little bit, and I'm going to keep my arms going down the slope, so I'm going to chase after the golf ball a little bit. quiet with my legs. It's all with my upper body. But again, I'm using the sand to help me. Don't be scared of the sand one bit. The sand really is your friend in these shots. That one's came in a little hotter. Let's reposition that one. So it is literally just kind of dying in the edge. This time I can get both feet in, but I still got to make sure that this knee isn't going to be in play. I'm going to angle it inwards a little bit, leaning myself onto that lead side, but my arms are going down the slope and collecting the sand with it. Bunkers are not that difficult, guys. Just use the sand, it is your friend. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification button as well, so that when we upload the new videos, you get those straight to your inbox. We'll see you soon.